Good morning everyone. I'm Shabnam. Today I'm going to say about forward chaining and backward chaining. When we look into forward chaining, it is based on the available data where a decision is being made and the process is called forward chaining. And it basically works on the initial state to reach the final goal state. When we look into the examples of this forward chaining, here are the examples. So, the law says that it is a crime for an American to sell the weapons to the hostile nations. The country NATO, an enemy of the America, has some missiles, and all of these missiles were sold by the colonial West, who is an American. So we can prove that colonial West is a criminal. When you go into next slide, here, it is a crime for an American to sell weapons to the hostile nations. So we consider this American as an X, weapon as an Y, and cells as X, Y, Z. To the hostile, which is Z, so basically that American is considered as the criminal. When you go into the next point, NATO has some missiles. So basically this NATO is an opposite of this American. So we can say that he owns missiles. All of his missiles were sold by the colonial West. So we can represent these as missiles X and owns. All of these missiles were owned by the NATO. So we can basically consider as this. And going to next slide, missiles are the weapons. So we can basically represent these missiles as X. That implies weapons as X. So an enemy of an American counts as a hostile. So enemy brackets X comma American. Enemy of an American is considered as a hostile. So where West is an American and the country NATO is an enemy of the America. So basically this country NATO is an enemy of the America where an American called Colonial sells the missiles to the NATO. So basically the Colonial will become a criminal here. Here we will prove by forward chaining. First we consider American weapon. American has a weapons who sells these weapons to the hostile, so he will become a criminal. And the NATO owns the missiles, and the missiles owned by NATO, which is being sold by the West, which is basically an American. So here missiles is considered as the weapons and the enemy is the hostile, and the West is basically, we know West is American, American is West, and the enemy here is the NATO. When we go into the next slide, we represent this forward chaining as this. First we consider all the left hand side facts and we write as this weapons M1 and cells West M1 comma NATO. So basically when we look into the left hand side, we can see weapons are missiles. Weapons are nothing but the missiles, so we can write here missiles. And who sells these weapons, who owns these weapons is considered as NATO. So we can write as a branching or the chain as owns NATO N1, and hostile here is enemy, which is NATO. When we look into the next slide, so here we can see that this total branching or the chaining, we can say we reached from the initial state to a final state where we considered the NATO, the colonial as the criminal, as he sells the weapons or the missiles to the opposition, which is NATO of a different country. So here we consider the colonial as the criminal. So basically when we look into the backward chain, it is based on decision an initial state is fetched. It is also called as goal based. Basically, from goal we'll go into an initial state, so that is called as the backward chaining or the backward chaining proof. So first we'll take as criminal, and we'll go into the details how he became the criminal and why he became the criminal. So we can see in the right hand side we have criminal, and the left hand side we have American, weapons, cells, and hostile. So we can see American has the weapons, who sell those weapons to the hostile. So we connect all these into the criminal. And then next, so as these weapons are nothing but the missiles, so we connect these weapons as the missiles. And then who sells and who owns these weapons? So basically these weapons are nothing but the missiles. So here we represented missiles M1, and who owns these? Nano is the one who owns all of these weapons. So we branched or we chained these two into the cells. When it comes to next, so here the hostile is nothing but the enemy. Who is the enemy? Nano is the enemy. Nano is the enemy to the American. So we consider as these hostiles, and then Nano, comma American as the enemy. When look into next, forward versus the backward chaining. Forward chaining is data driven, automatic, unconscious process. Example, object recognition, routine decision. Backward chaining is the goal driven, appropriate for problem solving. Example, where are my keys? How do I get into PhD program? Complexity of backward chaining can be much lesser than linear in size of KB. Resolution. By a mathematician, John Allen Robinson in year 1965. Proof by contradictions. Steps for resolution. When you look into the steps of these resolution, conversion of facts into first order logic, conversion of these FOL statements into CNF, and negotiate the statement which leads to proof, draw the resolution graph, unification. So when we look into next slide, examples of this resolution. John likes all kinds of food. Apples and vegetables are food. Anything anyone eats and not like killed is food. Anil eats peanuts and still alive. Harry eats everything that Anil eats. Proof by resolution that John like peanuts. Step 1. Converting these facts into FOL. So for all food, we represented as X. So these John likes all kinds of food. We can say it by the first statement. And when come to second statement, apples are nothing but food, and vegetables are food. So when we look into the third statement, for all X and for all Y, eat X comma Y. So we can say this as anything anyone eats and not killed by food. When we look into D statement, Anil eats peanuts and still alive. So Anil eats peanuts and still alive. For all X, killed X is alive, and alive is killed. So these added as the predicates. So these are liked by John and peanuts. So basically the resolution is that John like peanuts. So we convert this FOL into CNF, and then step 3 is we convert in those into CNF, and then implement all the implications and rewrite these statements. So basically we have to prove that John likes the peanuts, and we will move this negotiation inwards and rewrite these statements once again, and again we rename these variables or standardized variables. So basically we have to get a answer that resolution is that John likes peanuts. So we drop universal quantifiers. In this step we will drop all the universal quantifiers since all the statements are not implicitly qualified, so we don't need it. And finally we negate the statement to be proved. In this statement we will apply negotiation to the conclusion statement, which we will write as John likes peanuts. So basically in this session we completed the concept of forward chaining and backward chaining. So thank you.